My poem, Appalachian Winter, actually started as a journal entry. I was home on Thanksgiving break. I live in the mountains in the Appalachians, and I was sitting beside the river and thinking about the scene around me as one does, and I was writing about it. Afterwards, I looked back at my entry, and it felt like poetry to me. So I typed it all out and cut it down until the only things left were things that I felt were absolutely necessary. It started very long, but I revised it, I broke it into smaller pieces, I rearranged sections, and eventually it got to this. So, in thinking back on that process, I realized that when I'm writing poetry, I don't usually start out with a meaning. I start writing about my impressions on a scene, and sometime in the middle of the process, or even after I'm finished, I figure out what I said. Sometimes it's fantastic, sometimes it's terrible, usually it's in between. I think this process works for me because, in my opinion, for my writing, I don't think meaning is necessarily what makes something good writing. I think good writing is honest, and if something's honest, then there's some sort of truth to be had, there's some sort of meaning there. So I try to focus on making my writing well written and let the meaning take care of itself. That being said, when I do realize the meaning, I go back and consider the piece in that light, and I make any appropriate edits and reworkings to the form and structure of the piece that I think better contribute to what I'm trying to say. But I can't start with the idea that this is what I'm going to write about. Now let's do it. So obviously I just started writing about the scene at hand for this poem, and in looking at it, I started to realize there were a lot of themes of silence and hibernation that I was alluding to, and the need not just to experience things, but to process them. I think when writing about nature, and specifically about the natural world preparing for winter, I started to subconsciously focus on this theme for a couple reasons. First of all, the idea of processing is very much like seasonal shifts. In nature, everything happens in spring and summer. That's when the babies are born, that's when flowers bloom, it's sunny, and things feel very alive. And in winter, things are still, equally alive, like the trees are still there and everything, but it's a quieter, more subliminal life form. And I think that mimics how the mind goes through stages of being heavily involved in something and then stepping back and considering it. The title, however, was more intentional, so to speak. If you're familiar with the Aaron Copland piece, Appalachian Spring, he wrote it in I think in the 1950s, and it's based off a Shaker melody called Simple Gifts, which is, it's mostly about, the idea of enjoying where you are. The lyrics are, it's a gift to be simple, it's a gift to be free, it's a gift to come down to where you ought to be. And so, in looking back at this poem, I considered it my addendum to that concept of, yes, there is Appalachian Spring, but there's also Appalachian Winter when you pause and consider what it is you've been celebrating. So I think my biggest takeaway from this process, both with this piece and my other one, is to go about life looking at things as honestly as I can, and, to pause and reflect on them if need be, and then write that and get feedback and edit and get more feedback and edit and continue on in that never-ending cycle, and hope you make something that resonates with people. I think that's about all you can do.